work in 11 different countries. So really the perspective of what leadership I've seen in 11 different countries, in 11 different cultures, I think that has helped me. The other thing that has helped me is also seeing leadership, and it's not only me, but also observing the leaders in both large organizations like IBM, Schlumberger, which are more than 100,000 employees, and as well as also observing leadership in small companies like Inquest and some others. So the other advantage, unique advantage I have had is having worked on both sides of the table. So having worked on the services side where you have clients, you have customers, you have the revenue to go after, as well as work with the clients in the client company. That has also given me a unique advantage. And lastly, the other advantage I've had as lucky is worked in companies that were 100 years old. So they have done the journey, they have learned their lessons, they have done thousands of these sessions, they have done research, they have spent a lot of money on R&D, and they have developed leadership things. So having worked in those companies and then coming to a company like Inquest, which at that time when I joined was only a year and a half old, really a startup, starting from scratch where we literally had nothing. So I think that has given me a very good overall, all-round perspective on leadership styles, leaders, successful leaders, learning leaders. So I think that has been really a help to me.
Okay, while waiting for other second question, what leadership does mean? I mean, what leadership means? What does leadership means to you?
And really, if I say in one word, I think leaders are known by the monuments they leave behind. So to me, leadership is how they develop leaders for tomorrow. And that is, one sentence, but that has a huge philosophy. How you motivate people, how you create vision. And I think that's the difference in a leader and, people working with a leader. A leader can see things 10 years ahead. A leader can see things much in the future. And the challenge for a leader then is how to translate it and show it to the people who we work with.
Any other question?
Is there any difference between a leader and a manager in an organization?
Yeah, so leader, there are different definitions and people do talk about it. So the way I will explain this is yes, but also at the time, the same individual can be a leader and a manager. Depends on the circumstances, on the situation. First, let's see how I define leader and manager. Leader, I think, is someone who encourages people to do things, and manager, I think, is the person who manages people to do things. I think that's the big difference. Some people have defined it by giving example from the military. They say a manager is, someone who is a battlefront general. So a general with his troops at the battlefront, thank you, basically doing, managing the people at the battlefront. And a leader is the commander-in-chief, who basically mobilizes, motivates, inspires, and creates vision. Which one is more important or more better than other? I think both. I think at times, same individual needs to take up a role of being a manager, because you need to get the things done. At the same time, that individual has to, the other day or after a few hours, become a leader, which is motivating, inspiring people, encouraging people around him. So I won't say in a general statement, a leader is always the best and a manager is always the worst. I think the key word here is balance. How a leader balances his or her role between being a manager and being a leader. And sometimes that can be, half an hour of this and half an hour of that. It's really a mixture.
Do you think we have in Inquest as a young organization, I think somebody said 10 years a young organization, do we have the right balance between leadership and managers?
He wants me to get fired. So I think difficult to say really. Inquest, I personally, and you know, I find really honestly Amjad as a very, very inspiring leader. Seriously, and honestly, one of the reasons I joined the company was because I was, and I really mean it, I was really inspired and motivated when he interviewed me. And because, why? I tell you the reason. The reason to me is passion. I think he's someone who shows passion, and I think this company is his passion. I think that to me is the differentiator. I think you can instill everything else in the individual. I think you can teach people how to make Excel sheet. I think you can teach people how to make PowerPoints. I think you can teach people how to run a tender. You can teach people how to do a payment run. You can teach people how to do a subsurface project or drill a well. I think that these things can be taught and have been taught in the universities. I think what to me the key for a leader is passion. Does the individual have the passion? And I think I see abundance of passion in Inquest. Yes, we are not perfect. Yes, we are not always right. Yes, we have a lot of made errors and mistakes. Yes, we have to learn. We have to go a long way. And remember, Rome was not built in one day. And remember institutions like when I was talking about IBM, and honestly, what a pleasure it was to work in such an institution. That has developed over 100 years. And we are comparing when we are only 9-year-old. So you can't compare the wisdom and experience of a 100-year-old individual with a baby of 9-year-old. So, but to answer your question, I think what I like most about Inquest is I see passion, and I see passion at all levels of the organization.
I have one question. I'm always intrigued to know this. If you look at the top 10 company in the world, Fortune 500, you have most of them are tech companies. Google, you have Microsoft, and they are being held by Indians or a person from Indian origin, like Sundar Pichai or Satya Nadella. On the other hand, you have a company that we used to work for, Samboje. For a long time, it was held by a person called Satish Pai, who is a great leader. So I would like to know your take on this. Is it Indians' education system, or what is it that brings these people pushing a lot of Indians to get these good jobs?
They are 1 billion.
Or they just born with that charisma, or
we're seeing a lot of this, and not just tech now, they are everywhere.
So I think in Schlumberger, when I was there, one sentence that really motivated me that I heard frequently, and it was in the books and it was written and verbal and everything, was no one nationality, no one culture has monopoly over talent. And honestly, what a great phrase that was, and it's the whole philosophy behind it, and I strongly believe in that. So take example of Schlumberger. By the way, Satish was never the CEO, but he was in the top people. Take example of Schlumberger, even today. So if you look at Schlumberger, top 25 positions in Schlumberger today are held by people from 19 different countries, nationalities, which means there is no one predominant nationality at the top of the leadership. And I think that's credit to the organization. They've learned how to access, like take my example. I was born in a small village in Pakistan called Tando Mohammad Khan, and I'm sure no one of you have heard before that. And Schlumberger recruited me in Pakistan, moved me to Iran, moved me to Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Norway, Holland, Denmark, and then to Aberdeen in UK. And you know, that's a learning, that's a massive learning. It's very expensive for any company to do that because they were paying for my children's education, they were paying for transporting my containers from one place to another, and they do that for thousands of employees. But that is the company that believes their biggest asset is people, and that's why they invest in people. IBM, we're talking about IBM's values were very simple, 3 values, nothing else. And there are those three, even today if you go to their website, they have three values, very simple. One value is people, one word, respect to the individual, basically they call it, but people. Second was profit, and they made no secret about it, that they are a commercial organization, they're here to make profit. Let's stop fooling ourselves that we are here for the world, for the betterment of humankind. Very clear to the point, we are here for profit. Why profit? Not for fill their pockets, but they said profit gives them independence. If they earn profit, they will be able to spend on research and development. If they spend on research and development, that's what takes them to the next level. And the third value they had was technology. And they truly believed in, and see what they've done and how the world of internet has changed everyone's life. So I think those companies clearly say themselves, there's no one nationality that holds monopoly over talent. And I think that's very true. In some sectors, we do see some nationalities which probably are predominant. I really don't know the reason, to be honest with you, but you are right, a lot of international tech organizations today are headed by people from India. Probably to do their education system, probably to do with their culture. Difficult for me to say what is the root cause of that.
Alright, second question, if I may. A quick one. There's also a talk of how hard it is to attract top talent to join oil and gas company. Not sure how true that is, but it could be something to do with the millennials looking at renewables or just our inability to attract them. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I think that is a fact. I think the fact is that people are moving their investment out of oil and gas, and I don't think we can hide that fact. I think we have seen that. Even companies like Equinor or the Norwegian Sovereign Fund announced last year saying we are moving a big percentage of our investment out of oil and gas. And remember that sovereign fund was made up of oil and gas revenue. So they made a decision and they are transitioning. A lot of big companies within oil and gas sector today are basically talking about how they transform themselves from being oil and gas, fossil fuel, and move to environment. We already know people like Bill Gates and others are basically encouraging people to move investment out of oil and gas. I think there was a meeting of European finance ministers 2 weeks ago, and they in the minutes of the meeting, they said they encouraged the European Bank to move the investment out of oil and gas to other renewable, sustainable sectors. So I think there's no denying the fact that investment is moving out, and this industry is capital intensive industry. You have to spend millions to drill a well and then find out you only find water and nothing else there. And then that millions, so you need millions to really capital intensive industry. So when there's not much funding in the industry, I think you see the things. But the other side of the thing is, when investments stop coming and there's no new field developments, there's no new supply, the existing supply at one point do come down. And then there will create an imbalance between supply and demand at one point. So I think the key word again comes is balance. So this industry, and I think that's a true fact worldwide, is not as attractive to the youth today as it was in 1980s and 1990s. How can we change it? I think we all need to play our part. We all need to talk to our sons and daughters. We all need to talk to our brothers and sisters. We need to go to universities. I go to a lot of universities as guest speaker to talk about different career paths within oil and gas. And I think what we need to tell people is, even those who think fossil fuel is not good, we disagree, but even those who think that's really not good, then even to transform those companies, you have to be part of those companies to transform those companies. So I think we all should play the role in really explaining the different career paths and opportunities within the sector.
You want me to add a little bit?
Please.
In Malaysia itself, if you recall back in the year 2000, this is all cyclical process, supply demand. At time that .com companies are, were booming, most of the youngsters, not no longer youngsters now, but at that time, they don't go into this. They go into all the .com companies. It was like at that time. And then back in 2004, 2005, when we're looking for reservoir engineer, there was nobody with the range of experience between 5 years to 8 or 9 years, because there was some gap in those years when there's no people being recruited or got into the upstream oil and gas. So then after that, it's level again, comes to equilibrium. Now the cycle might comes again and might go, but this is the whole process of going through this evolution.
Very true. I totally agree with you. We have seen that. Good point.
I have a
just
question.
add to that. I think we need to attract millennials because everybody talks about digitalisation and things, and I think as an industry we're not going to succeed unless we do adopt new technology and artificial intelligence and things, and that is going to make you more attractive to the next generation. And I think the problem is probably most people around here, even though there's a wide range of ages, the next generation will be so different to, I guess it's when you see your children. I know talking to people, and I was talking to somebody at the HSE forum, they're saying their 3-year-old, all they know is they just want the phone and the iPad. So none of us around this table had that when we were children, and I think as an industry we do have to adopt it, and things are going to change. Robotics, drones, all sorts of things that we don't know of. And I believe there's a statistic, isn't there, that 70% of 5-year-olds today will do a job that nobody's ever heard of as of today. So your children are going to be doing jobs that you don't even know exist at the moment.
Like YouTuber.
It's already here.
Yeah. The thing is that at our
Blogger.
age, when we were young, have you ever heard of such thing? Never, and that has never been our career path at all when we went to college.
True. Very true. Very interesting fact, Sir John.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have a question, sticky one. Enquest is a relatively young company, right? Not more than 10 years old. And I read a research paper that said a lot of companies doesn't last more than 15 years. So what is Enquest leadership plans to propel Enquest to be a lasting, a company, a legacy company like IBM more than 100 years?
I don't think it's a leadership question, but I'll try anyways as part of Inquest leadership team. I think one word that at least attracted me when I was, it was a big decision for me to leave a company like Schlumberger and join Inquest. You can imagine it's not an easy decision. What made me decide at that time was one word, and that one word is growth. And I think this company, let's look at the facts. So in 2010, when we did our IPO, our production was 9,000 barrels. Today, we are sitting only 9 years, and I repeat, only 9 years, and our gross production is 120,000 barrels. So from 9,000 to 120, and this period includes downturns. This period includes oil price going down to 20s. This period includes a lot of people movement, demand management, a lot of other geopolitical issues. But I think not many companies are lucky, or not lucky, but successful in really growing so much in such difficult external environment. So I think we sometimes are a bit hard on ourselves. I think you should be proud to be not only watching this journey of a new startup growing from nothing to such levels today, that not only watching but being part of it, because you individuals here in this room have been part of that journey. And I tell you honestly, not many of us get that opportunity to be part of such a journey. I mean, ask HR people in Aberdeen or in Malaysia, in a growth period, how they were managing to just get people in and get the work done. So I think the thing that really gives me the pride and the motivation to carry on is Inquest, in spite of everything, has been growing. One example I'll give you, you heard a lot about Inquest debt, Inquest loan, Inquest heavy debt, Inquest loan. Unfortunately, what people don't give you credit is, yes, you at a peak, you had a loan of 2.4 billion, which has now come down around 1.5, but at the peak it was 2.4 billion. But at the same time, what you don't read is Inquest invested 5 billion. Inquest in these 9 years have invested 5 billion. I tell you, it's not easy in these times to attract investment and put investment in there. The other fact of life is, Inquest is one of those very few companies, which will answer your question, very few companies who, whatever we have earned as revenue, we have put each and every penny back in the field as investment. We have not given a penny as dividend to our shareholders. What does that mean? To answer your question is, Inquest means business. Inquest is committed. Inquest is serious. And we have been investing so heavy, and we have been not taking profit home to our bank accounts, I mean shareholders, but reinvestment. And I think that is something that gives me the motivation, gives me the energy. When I'm negotiating with the suppliers, honestly, that is what is giving me the kick, giving me the feel that, Ali, you are saving this, whatever you save this will go back in the field. It's not going to go back to any individual's bank account. And honestly, I think that's a big achievement for all of us, for all of you who have contributed for this company.
So Ali, in the years of that, you have been working with all the great companies, J, ANI and all that. Based on in your view, what are the most critical or the character of a good leader, and how can the team here in Malaysia adopt that to take the company to greater heights?
So I think generally, in my opinion, I really value few things in a leader. One, I value passion. As I said, everything else, in my opinion, I may be wrong, you can learn, you can teach. Passion is something, it just comes naturally. And I think I value that a lot. So leaders that I've seen who have passion, I've never seen them fail. So I really give that a big credit. The other thing I like as a quality in a leader is vision. A leader has to have a vision. And that vision is not necessarily 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 months. It's a long-term vision. When Amjad created Inquest, his vision was, the basin is going down. We are now entering a phase where we'll have late life assets. Let me take that late life assets, let me create a model for the industry that we basically turn them around and get a revenue out of it. Today, if you look at the facts, there are at least 5 or 6 companies which have actually copied our model in the North Sea. So you see Chrysors, you see all the new companies coming up, and all they are doing is just copying the model that Amjad created and converting, basically doing the same thing. So that is to me leadership. Leadership is people who create their new models, new visions, and the rest of the mankind basically copies them. So passion, vision. I think the other thing I have always noticed in a successful leader, or let's say I haven't seen a successful leader who doesn't have good communication skills. I think that's very key, because you can be fantastic, the vision, brilliant vision, you have exciting model. If you can't communicate that to people around you, I think it's very difficult then for you to be a successful leader. So really, I think these 3 things to me are the key. If you have passion, you can definitely inspire people. If you can communicate, you can definitely motivate people. But I think these are the 3 things to me which really makes a good leader.
Since you're talking about a successful leader, can you talk about the failed leader? What makes the leader fail?
Yeah, so what makes a leader fail? Basically not having these 3 things. Sometimes there are a lot of factors which are beyond individual control. So we talked about companies failing. That may not be anything to do with the company itself. It may be to do with the external environment. Maybe to do, there are a lot of things that humans were using 100 years ago. And today, if you are still doing that, you won't be selling and your company will fail. Someone I met, and I said, what do you do? And they say, we are in a business, Ali, which will never fail. And I said, what business is that? They said, because Ali, we will never be out of business. There will be always demand for that. And I said, what is that business? They said funeral services. And you know, that is true. There will always be need for funeral services because there will be always people dying. So a lot of times it is also the external environment. But I think a leader to fail will probably those three things. Someone who doesn't have passion, who just comes for 8 to 9 to 5 type of a job without a passion, someone who doesn't have a vision of future, and someone who probably is not a good communicator.
Sir, do you think the leadership is naturally born or we have to develop it?
That's a very good question. I think it's a bit of both, but in my opinion, that's a very argumentative question because a lot of people have different views. I think there's a lot of natural thing in that. Yes, develop is definitely there, no doubt about it. You know, I've learned and developed a lot of my things just by observing leaders and just by learning by watching. So development is definitely there. In my personal opinion, and I know a lot of people disagree, I think a lot of that is also inborn. So I think it's a bit of both. Anyone wants to share anything, agree or disagree? John, what do you think?
I think it's a really good question. I think it's that nature nurture thing again. I think it's a combination of both. You do get some natural people just have a natural affinity, but then if they may have a very good communication skills, but if they don't have a vision or they don't need technical skills or if they're not really positive, or I think one of the things for Enquest is, and I think most people know, it's sort of resilience and tenacity are the two things, and I think that's why we've survived through the last 10 years, through the downturn and everything. And I think, as you know how difficult Saligi is to run. I think what Gary used to use was, if it's easy, it's not Saligi. And I think that applies to the North Sea as well. The assets we go in the too difficult pile, and I think it's you need this nature and nurture. You need a bit of both.
From my perspective, the easiest way I see leadership and the way I was taught is that there are 3 E's into it, and envisioning, energizing, and enabling. Which means first you focus on visioning, and then energizing, which is the element that Ali was talking about. You have passion in it, you'll be able to get everybody motivated into it, and then enabling, help others to get there. So these 3 elements in there that sets you the easier forward move towards increasing the ability to expand your leadership ability. Oh, by the way, there are still chairs here. I don't quite comfortable sitting while we got ladies, standing up. So come on in. Why don't you guys change over, and we'll bring the chair slightly to the other side if you shy to be next to Ali.
Old lady.
Yeah. Come on in. One more chair.
Old lady. Any other question?
Ali, so I think we kind of recognize you as a leader, so in this case, right? So
he is a leader.
no, what I mean is like we put it in that angle itself, is right. So what if you can say words for your style of leaderships? What will you then put as a term for it actually?
I think that's really for my team to say how they see. But in the past, in the other companies where I worked and I left, and I did surveys when I left those companies at the end saying, what are the learning things for me, what is the good, what is not so good for me. I'll tell you both. So the most frequent thing people told me as a positive was, Ali, you somehow have ways to make us happy. So they say we come to your office, sometimes stressed, sometimes crying, sometimes depressed, sometimes confused, sometimes complicated problem. We bring difficult problems, and you always have a solution. And you always give us, encouragement. And actually, people said these words that we came to your room worried, and we left your room smiling. And that Ali, we talked to ourselves within our team, saying, if you have a problem, go to Ali. And honestly, that is a huge compliment, because personally for me, I try to feel the pain of my employee. So for example, if Maximo is not working and the poor person is trying his or her level best to do, I feel that pain and I feel myself being there, trying to do my job and the system not allowing me. And then I go and fight with 1,000 people, shake the whole world, be a bit of a pain to some people to try to remove the obstacle and help the person find the solution. So I think feeling the pain of the employee is really, really important for a leader. Otherwise, you don't. Some of the not so good thing that people have told me, the most frequent one I think, which I try to improve, is Ali, at times you do micromanage. At times, Ali, you do get into too much detail, which I think is true. At times I do get into details. And my version of the thing is, if I don't get into the detail, it doesn't get done. So maybe that's an excuse, I don't know, but I'm a human being. But I do consciously try to improve myself in that area.
If I need money, can I go to your room?
Yes, I have a monopoly.
Ali, what are the challenges do you faced in Inquest as a leader from the leadership point?
A very interesting question. I think the first challenge was for myself to adopt how I adopt myself. So I worked in companies, IBM, Schlumberger, which was so structured, so formal, that when I entered them, they gave me a book, this thick, saying this is the rule book, and you go and follow this rule book. And it made sense because they were in 100 countries, 80 countries, and they have to have a standard over every place. They did the same thing, no room for creativity, no room for innovation. You just have to do that. Coming to Inquest, which was only a year and a half old, at the start I felt a bit different. I said, oh my God, because when I came, the first meeting, I thought my boss was going to give me the same book, saying, here's the book, Ali, all the books, all the information, all the process, all the flow charts, all the do's, all the don'ts are written, and do it. He, and literally this is true, Tim Bradbury, who was the deputy MD at that time of the North Sea, first meeting, he sat down there and he took his, this, yellow sticky notes, post-it, he wrote 3 points, he said, Ali, this is what I expect you to do. And he gave me that one post-it. And I saw to the post-it and I went to my office saying, oh my God, I don't know where to start. Because there was no team, there was no supply chain manager before I came to Inquest. So there was no process, we didn't have ERP, we didn't have Maximo. In Schlumberger, I was spoiled because for everything, I used to push a button and get a report and see the statistics and then make a decision. Here, there was no system to give me any data. So I think that first, that was a challenge to adapt myself from coming from huge, formal, old institutions to a startup, which is not easy. The other thing, I'll be very frank, was a challenge for me, not born in UK, not born in Aberdeen. This was my very first experience, and I felt it in the first few months of a very British, a very Scottish company. So, IBM was a very multicultural, people from over 100 countries. Schlumberger was extremely multicultural, where we had, in my team, I had one person from Norway, one from Algeria, one from Russia, and so on and so forth. And we used to have meetings in Minglish. There was no English because we all spoke our own English, so it became a Minglish. When I came to Inquest, I remember I was self-conscious saying, oh my God, their English is so perfect. I hope I'm talking right. I hope I'm not making English mistakes, even to that extent. So I think the adaptability was the first challenge for me in the company. The second challenge to me was there was no Inquest culture, because at that time, year and a half old, everyone was coming from different places and bringing their own culture. Someone was coming from Shell with Shell culture, someone was coming from Schlumberger with Schlumberger culture, from BP culture. And that was not easy because it was really a hodgepodge or a mixture of everything. So it takes time to really, create Inquest culture, which I think still we are on a journey, we haven't achieved that. So these two things were, I think, quite a challenge for me. And the last thing, which still is a challenge, is one word we were talking earlier this morning on behaviors. behaviors give me always a challenge. It's never easy. I enjoy working on behaviors, changing my own behavior, becoming self-aware about my own behavior, and also making others aware of their behavior. So I think those three things, I would say, I found them challenging. But I have lasted here for 7.5 years, which means I probably enjoyed it. So maybe I enjoy fighting behaviors. So.
You mentioned just now about, sometimes you tend to be micromanaging a bit. What are your views on empowerment? Because I think I remember earlier in the days, one of the core values of NQuest is empowerment. And some people said that empowerment nurtures creativity of your staff. What are your views on that?
Yeah, my view is the key word is balance. I think it has to be balanced. So if I look at other way around, I have worked with managers who have been very handed those people to become active. So I think the key word is balance, and I think that is not easy to get. I think it's not easy to have a balance between the two. I don't think you should be extreme to any one side. I don't think you should become extreme to just empower everyone and you just stay cool and don't do anything. At the same time, I don't think you should become extreme and saying, I'm going to be extremely hands-on. I think either way is a problem. The key is how to get the balance, which is never easy.
Situational.
Situational, reasonable, absolute. Situations make a big difference. You're right.
Mr. along the way you'll find a team member who will disagree with your opinion or maybe a suggestion. So how do you find cohesion in that?
I think communication is the key word. So there are a lot of times when I disagree with my manager. There are a lot of times when my reports disagree with me. I think what I like is communicating, sitting down on the table, talking about things, giving each other's perspective, and then it becomes either he convinces me or I convince him or her. So I think communication is the key in those. Because a lot of times you find out, actually it was just misunderstanding. Actually we were both saying the same thing. How many times we have found out that, oh, you know what, I think we both are saying the same thing, but just we are using different words. So I think the key is communication.
How do you deal with difficult leaders based on your experience?
That's an interesting question. To be honest, both. You have heard things like either fight or fly. So a lot of times I have opted to fight, and when I fight, I really fight. And I don't mean punching, but with arguments and those things. At the same time, there have been times where I've said, let me fly away. So either fight or fly. I think those are the two reactions. First, we do try to, again, communicate, explain. So by fight, I mean communicate, explain, show the reasons, rationale. But at times when nothing works. But a lot of times the compliments I've received is, Ali, you somehow have way to convince people. I don't know, maybe it's reasoning, it's logic. The best compliment I received from my Dubai team. So they had the opportunity to meet my wife socially, and they were just talking to I was not there but not really in the conversation and talking, and they were talking to my wife saying, by the way, does Ali convince you at home to do things because in office, he gives us reasons, logic, all that, and he convinces otherwise. And my wife told them, oh yes, many times he has changed me and convinced me. So now whenever I meet them, they said, you're the only husband in the world who can convince your wife. So I definitely take that as a compliment.
Ali, in NQuest leadership, right, and also managers in general, do you see which is more prevalent, theory X or theory Y style of leadership?
I don't know, to be honest, because we have had, we are new, haven't spent much time with people. Leaders have changed, like ALT. So in last 12 months, almost entire ALT, except for me and Sandy Fattis, Last year, you know, it was a different ALT, different members now. So 1 year is very difficult for me to really conclude, to be honest. But what do you think? Let me ask the same question from you. No, feel free.
I think right now we are a lot on Theory X, man. Theory X.
Does everyone understand Theory X, Theory Y? Maybe you can summarize it.
Okay, check back the definition.
I mean, Google, Google. Is that question from Google, BK?
I have one question, I mean, just for the sake of sharing here. Especially for middle managers, right? I mean, it's always tough being middle managers because you got the expectations from your higher management, and also you have to manage the expectation from your downline.
Very good.
So how do you think, again, based on your experience, how best to manage that?
I think that's a very good question. I think that is the most challenging part of being a leader, where you are just the courier of messaging, and in those situations you are basically carrying the messages both ways, and you get in a difficult situation. One again golden rule that I have adopted in those situations is do what is the right thing, do what is the reasonable thing. So that you can also see in a supply chain role. So in supply chain role, you find yourself in the middle. There is a supplier on this side, and there is Inquest engineers or Inquest business on this side. And what usually I tell my people, don't take side of any side. Don't think because you are an Inquest, you should take side of Inquest. That's not your professional job. Don't take side of supplier either, just because you hate that engineer and you have to give him a tough time. So what the golden rule I have followed is, what is the right thing to do? What is the reasonable thing to do? And I think that has helped me a lot in situations, because then I'm making the decisions on merit. I'm not, which is difficult as a human being, because which means you might make your employees angry or offended, or you might make your manager angry or offended. But what I have always used the rule is, what is the right thing? What is the thing on merit to do? That has helped me in those cases.
So you're saying that we have to be consistent.
You have to be consistent, fair, objective, and decide thing on the merit of that thing. So say for example, if I have a fight with one individual on some other matter, and another matter comes, which may be in his or her favor, I should not be influenced of my relationship with that individual or company or something. Decide on the merit of that subject, which is the objectivity. And that has really helped me a lot. BK, you want to tell us X or Y?
Well, this is something from the 1950s, may not be relevant. Theory X is where the management is autocratic. It thinks that all the employees are lazy. You need to manage them, micromanage them. Whereas Theory Y is that the people itself, the employees, they are good people, they are willing to work hard. You just have to motivate them to be less autocratic. So,
which one is right? Yeah.
Try Theory Y in Seligi and see what happens. Right, I think OM have to be tough, right? Usually they are Theory X.
I think that one depends on the situation. I mean, he's managing a life plan. Sometimes, you know, he has to say, hey, this is how it's got to be done, this is how it's got to be done. Otherwise, I'm answerable for it. You know, if anything happens. That's why like soldier. Soldier has to be autocratic. You know, otherwise you're going to get a bunch of people get bombed,
Yes.
you know, because if you don't follow the rules. So, again, it depends on the situation, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And you need a bit of both probably at times. So.
Ali, can you share in your experience, you know, as a leader, people will always suck up to you and tell you only the good news.
Sorry, they need a good news.
No, leaders, as a leader,
tell what you want to hear.
People will only want to tell you what you want to hear.
Correct.
And they will suck up to you, right? And of course they will show off to you in front, do all the selling job. So how, as the leader, do you differentiate that you know, people are just sucking up and telling you all the good news, and then there is this, you know, it's like an iceberg, people tell you the top thing, but this whole big thing underneath.
So that's why I said at the start that as a leader you have to be balanced between being a leader and being a manager. So
and that's maybe one criticism I get, because I get into detail and then people think I'm micromanaging. So, plus I must say, I have a lot of weaknesses because I'm a human being, I'm not an angel, but I have one strength which at times has been very helpful, at times it has not been helpful, is somehow and that's also in my profile. So when I did insight discovery and other profiles, computer based, that also authenticated what I'm going to say. I usually understand individuals very quickly and very early. I think that has been the key in my personal case, because I can see behind the face, because I have that natural gift of understanding the individual very early and very quickly. That has helped me in those situations. And I think that has come natural. That is not something I've developed, that has come natural to me. And that helps me when I see what the person is trying to say, but what the actual thing is, what the depth of the matter is. And that has helped me. That has not helped me because when I've seen people, especially leaders or managers, who are more politicians than leaders, and then somehow I understand they are politicians and I tell them on their face, you are politicians, stop politicizing everything. That I feel has not helped me, because I could see that person so clearly that I find it then difficult to work with that person, because I understand now, yes, I'm being judgmental and I do become judgmental, but I do feel on most occasions my reading of the individual have always proven right. So I think the key is, if you don't have that natural gift of understanding the individual, is try to go into details. I think that's how then you separate fact from fiction.
And Melly, if that person keep buying you breakfast in the morning, then you know that that's something.
It could be poison.
It could be poison.
Put laxatives in it.
I think the other comment is that when situation like that happen, when somebody's always telling you all the good news that you want to hear all the time, the action of such process is not sustainable. Over time, it's going to collapse. So it's not the right strategy. The right strategy is always, somebody told me, tell the truth, you will never need to remember what you just told. But if you lie, you better remember it, because one day you're going to tell differently and people will catch you.
Yes.
So it's always as simple as that. I think where Ali saying that, put it in the right context and manage it in that way. I think the other part, in the business, we're still running business regardless of what position we are. Yes, probably the right thing to do based on what we are best knowing the subject matters, but at the same time take a look at the business. Like I know a lot of us struggle here. Everybody's trying to say, let's just spend the money, or we can cost recover, or don't worry, the cost recovery, let the other group handle it. The matter of the fact is that if we are not able to get cost recovery, it's going to hit our business. Once, we don't get the money back from Petronas. Number two, our partner say, I'm not going to spend my 50% of it. So we pay 100%. So it's always a lose. So we are always in business while we're doing the job, so we need to tie a little bit there. The other part of it is that managing up and down is everybody's job also. Even Amjad has to manage the board of directors and he has to manage the whole business. Us also, we have to manage the boss, we have to manage our people with us. So everyone has this up and down management process. We need to learn wherever we are. It doesn't really matter in any position and any role. It has to be part of the skill to try to figure that out. The other part is that, do we battle everybody on every single case? No, choose your battle, because if you keep battling everything all together, you're going to be, exhausted and fatigued. Finally, you will not be able to, motivate yourself and run it as a good job, because you see everybody as an enemy. So the best thing is that choose the right battle to go into it because certain value of it, and then, the rest are really cooperate through, because we got that values that we need to work on. We're in business and everybody has that value to work through. It's always difficult. Again, Ali, you told us the right balance is the word, right?
That's the magic, isn't it?
Communication, balance.
Communication is very important.
Very important, yeah.
Very important.
So, as a subordinate, as an employee, how can we make our leader, our boss, more effective?
By cakes.
Oh, cakap semua.
The way I see that really, and I'm honest, jokes aside, I always try to understand what are my boss' main objectives. What is my boss trying to achieve? Why? Because in my honesty and innocence, I believe that will be, he will be or she will be basically doing the same for his boss objectives and so on. So for example, you know, say I try to see, okay, what is the top 3 things Bob is trying to achieve now? Because I assume that will be trickling down to him from Amjad. What are the 3 things Amjad is trying to achieve? That will be what Bob is trying to achieve. And Amjad, I think it will be trickling down to him, as Ruslan said, because Amjad will be trying to do the top 3 things that board basically wants Amjad to do as a priority. So I assume, right or wrong, that my boss basically will be getting that from the top, and that is then what you call, what is board's priority? Board's priority is for the company direction. So I always, whenever I go to a new company, whenever I get a new boss, wherever we have a new year, a new term, I try to my level best. I also ask, the simple way is ask. I ask Bob, what are the 3 most important priorities for you at the moment? Bob, what are the 3 most challenges for you at the moment? Bob, what are the 3 most big opportunities for you at the moment? And then I try to move my energy in that direction. Some people think by doing that I'm managing upwards negatively and not downwards. I think I am trying to understand company priorities, because my manager will always have more information than me about the company. His manager will always have more information than him about the company. And I think that determines the priority. So that's really what I try and make efforts to understand that, so that I can then do that to support my manager, who then supports his manager, and then so on and so forth.
So ask me, you will need to ask John. He's next meeting.
Ali, a question. As a leader, how do you gain a commitment from your team in changing priorities, for example?
I think fairness. So I think if your team member thinks you are a fair person, now fair means you are same to everyone in the team. Fair means you are balanced. Fair means you are objective and not subjective. I think those things really, if your team believes that you are a fair individual, a fair person, a fair leader, then I think your team does give your commitment. The other thing which I've always noticed, we are human beings at the end of the day. So I think empathy, or you know what I was trying to say, you use a lot of the word a lot in Malaysia, care, or I was trying to say in different words, feel the pain. If your people see you, not just by words, not just by surface, but in real fact, if the people think you feel the pain of your employees, I think that's a huge thing. I think then your employees go out of the way to support you in your difficult time when you are in pain. So I think fairness, and I think feeling the pain of your employees. If you do it with your heart, I think you will see a very, very committed team working with you.
One of these days, the leaders will look very painful.
Mr. Ali, how do you, as a leader, identify or recognize excellent performers versus an average performer?
Good question. So, personally, and I do get criticism sometimes over that. Personally, what I see is I differentiate between an average and above average employee is someone with a continuous improvement mindset, someone who is never satisfied and wants to keep improving. Because I believe if you don't move forward, you are actually moving backwards. So status quo is actually moving backwards, not forward. So I differentiate people who come with, and this is what I keep saying, if you come up with 10 ideas, even if they're half ideas, and we implement just one of that idea, we will make a big difference. So I like people who are active, who come approach me saying, you know, Ali, what, I have this idea, what do you think? And maybe it's not directly me, it's directly other department, it's for the company or something. So I differentiate always people who come up with ideas, who come up with initiatives, who come and approach you, who come and talk to you, and basically don't believe in status quo and continuously improve. And that has given me some criticism, because some of my reports have said, when I've asked them saying, Ali, you're never satisfied. And that is true, I am never satisfied. But I see that as a positive. Some people don't see that as a positive.
Mr. Ali, out of curiosity, if you were able to give one advice to Ali Talpur when he was starting his career, what would that be?
When he was how old? I'm still 13. I honestly think my advice will be enjoy life. I honestly think, because I keep saying one thing which my wife doesn't like, I don't know why. I keep saying I will retire early if I can afford. I don't want to walk from office desk right straight to the grave. I think you get this gift of life only once. You can, companies will survive. You know, if I leave Inquest today, a lot of people have left, companies will carry on. But your life, your kids, your family, your mother, your father, I think that the time is spent with them. So I think a lot of times, so if you look at the world today, you know, when you are young, you are studying all the time. And I was, at that age, I was the same. I was saying, come on, I'm not going to spend all my life studying. I'm going to start studying 2 days before the exams. And the rest I was playing cricket, sports, and because I said that time will never come back. And that is true. Today I don't have that energy and physical fitness to play cricket. So I'm glad I didn't spend all my time studying. Lot of my friends were spending 99% of time studying, and that not necessarily means they're successful today. So my advice to me at a young age will be focus on life, focus on enjoying life, and you know, ask people who at one point in their time realize that. You know, when you are in a terminally ill situation or you have something like that, then the message comes across, then you get the hit saying, oh my God, that's it, that's life. So I think the advice will be enjoy life as much as you can, because you only live once.
YOLO.
Enjoy your work also is also 10 hours you spend every day here.
Any more question?
Study. What inspires you to be a leader in Inquest?
What inspires me to be leader? I take pride in developing people. I always believe man is known by the monuments he leaves behind. So I really take pride when I see people who worked with me in Schlumberger and they are now, I develop them. I give them promotions, I help them achieve, and now I see them successful in their life, in their career. That gives me the happiness, the feeling of pride, saying I have contributed in someone's life. I have made a difference to someone's life. I have made a difference to someone's career. And that really inspires. I genuinely take interest in developing people. Not joking, but you can ask Azmi, though we have been working very short time, but how many times I have brought the subject with Azmi saying, what can we do for this individual? How can we develop this individual? How can we give opportunity to this individual? I really get satisfaction, happiness, motivation, inspiration by really creating leaders for tomorrow.
do you realize when you become a leader? Do you realize the progression that you are the leader?
That's a good question. I don't know how to answer that. I think it's really for the people around you to really notice that, and that's how it happens. So, for example, HR manager will notice that, your manager will notice that, and then they will talk about your development, like for example, what is high potentials? So high potentials that we have in the organization, in every company, every location, and in management, we make a list of high potentials. They are the people who we think are in a journey towards leadership. So we identify them and then we develop them. And then once we realize people are leaders, we make them whatever. We give them positions, responsibilities, titles. So I think it's other people who notice that, and then they give you those responsibilities and leadership roles. Ruslan, is that right? You want to add anything? When did you realize you are a leader?
Some great leaders, they realize the fact that they have to lead because in the environment where they are existing, they feel things hasn't changed, things hasn't been improving in the way that he feels it's supposed to be, and somebody just believe that I need to do something. And if you do a lot more of that, which means you start shifting from one environment to another, but you still believing that way, then you are competitive age, you always be in a group that you're comfortable, I can take the lead, no problem. So it's not easy when you say, do you know you are leaders? Because you always have a component of two. One is a follower, the other one is also a component that you want to lead, there's also a component that you try to manage. All within that. At the end, whichever role that you are more inclined to, at certain specific time when people see you, they will call you. You are a manager, you are a leader, or you are a follower. So it's a branding process that goes along the way. But that doesn't mean that this is how you are. Because if you know you're left-handed or right-handed, you can change that too. That's why in the company, we do a lot of profiling. People will know whether, if they don't realize they are left-handed or right-handed, that's easy to detect. But how a person is wired, they go through profiling, and that's how you're wired. The best tendency you're gonna fall to. But it doesn't mean that you're gonna stay that way all the time. Once you know it, you shift it. Because everybody is different. If you know how to shift and master the art of shifting it, then you have become situational and you are good at every environment, you become agile. So all this process, it's a learning process. That's why somebody asked whether leadership can be learned or is it inherit from you. So you can figure out, otherwise they wouldn't train that. The training is to make sure that you can shift it and you can be whichever way you want to be. The better you are at it, the more agile you are, and people can see you quickly into that. So I think this is the master, trying to master that process and you get there. It's not everybody didn't have a chance. Everybody has a chance if you can do that. I think that's my thought on this one.
I agree. HR is always right.
Never argue with them.
End of argument.
Okay, we can go back now.
That's the biggest thing.
That was the biggest thing.
Jokes aside, but no, absolutely. I think you're right. Hit the dot. Absolutely.
The question?
Sally, I have one question. Is it normal to have a competition within a team?
Yeah, I think it is normal to have competition within team, within companies, within different aspects of life. And is competition healthy? I think competition is healthy. It has to be objective. And I think again that's where the leader comes in. The leader should encourage competition to be objective, should encourage competition to be constructive, should encourage competition to be fair. But I think places where I have worked and seen no competition, I think really, one, I don't enjoy, but I also don't see any progression, any improvement, any positivity there, because then it becomes a status quo, because then no one is trying to get ahead of others and not coming with new ideas, not coming with improvements, not coming with any positivity. So I think competition within your teams as a leader is important, and I think leaders should encourage that, but it has to be a managed competition. Those of you who have not asked me a question, you should ask me a question. I see a lot of people who have not asked me any question.
Mr. Ali,
Yeah.
Throughout your career years, you must have faced the situations where you had to make, unpopular decisions. So how did you handle these kind of situations, and how did you, accept criticism or face criticisms, and how not to get personal, because you spend like half of your day in the office, right? So.
Very, very good question. I'll give you example from my Inquest life. So when I decided that we are going to move some support functions to Dubai from Aberdeen, it was a painful decision. It meant we had to make people redundant in Aberdeen. It meant, unfortunately, some colleagues, friends had to lose jobs in Aberdeen. Not an easy decision, I can tell you, for any manager or any leader or anybody. Very difficult decision, very painful decision, but it had to be done. And we did that in 2015, and it's almost 5 years, 5 years in February. That decision has proved to be successful and sustainable. But at that time, it was very difficult for me to explain to people why we are doing that. Because people saw that only as 14 people losing jobs, 20 people losing jobs. And what I tried to do, and I'll tell you why we successfully did it, and we got buy-in and commitment, and today people thought that is the best decision we did. So the way people said, oh Ali, the pain of 14 people losing their jobs. And the way I tried to explain them is, you have to get over that pain. It's better to make 14, 15 or 20 people redundant, but if we don't do that, we will unfortunately, fact of life, we'll have to make 300 people redundant. Because if we don't make structural changes, we might not survive as a company. Like John was saying earlier, the survival, the way this company has really come out of a difficult period. So the key for me was communication, explain people the rationale, the logic, why we are doing that. We are making 14 people redundant, but by doing that and some other things, we are saving 300 jobs in Aberdeen. So that was the difficult part. The other thing as a leader, which I always give advice, don't take, as you question, don't take the criticism personal, don't take the criticism serious, don't worry about, so two things I can tell you. So Winston Churchill, once saying, he said once that if you stopped, you are on your way, if you stopped at each dog barking, you won't reach your destination. The other example I give people is, if you are Muslim, if you are Christian, whatever religion you are, but if you believe in Allah, if you believe in God, I can tell you today there are millions of people who even criticize God, who even criticize Allah, and you know that, yeah? So if you can't stop people criticizing Allah, who, whichever religion you are, believe is perfect, then how can you stop people criticizing you? You are a human being, you are full of faults, you are not an angel. So if this is when people criticize me, this is how I try to think and satisfy myself, saying as long as I'm doing the right thing, I should not worry about criticism, because people will still criticize no matter what you do. Others who have not asked me a question yet, otherwise I'm going to ask you a question.
When you started your career in IBM, did you see yourself as yourself today?
No, I didn't, to be honest. If someone had told me at that time I will be leading a group of 100 people in my functions in all locations, or even in Schlumberger being a regional manager, I didn't. And the one reason was, in my entire family, in the past, there was not one individual who ever worked in the corporate life. So they all got ancestral lands or agriculture farms, and we always, everyone, my father, my uncle, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, they were into that business. They had lands, agriculture, farming. I was the only one who, I give credit to my mother because since I was young, and at that time, you know, the only two professions known to my mother was doctor and engineer. And she used to tell me, I will be a doctor, I will be a doctor since I was born. And it was her dream. And that's really inspired me. And I said, yes, I want to be different. Yes, I want to earn from my own, with my own hands. And I don't want to be living on my ancestors' lands that I give as an inheritance gift because I was born in this family. And that gave me a huge kick. And today, I feel pride when people, youngsters in my family, in my clan, says we want to be like Ali. We want to be traveling around the world. We want to be executive. We want to be in leadership positions. But I was a country boy born in a small village, population of 50,000 people. I honestly never thought I will be leading a Norway team. I didn't thought I would be in Holland. I didn't think I would be in Kazakhstan. So no, I didn't think like that when I started. But really credit to my mother. Don't tell my wife I'm giving credit to her. In front of her, I say credit to you. So. That's another golden rule, you know.
Survival skill.
Minimal survival skill.
Any more questions?
Ali, in a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of your knowledge and your leadership skill, where do you think, where you are?
Oh, that's something for others to tell me, honestly. You know, the more you learn, the more you find out you don't know how much you don't know. I think that continues till the last day of your life. So I don't think anyone can claim that he or she has reached the 10. So I think it's definitely not 10. I think it's really difficult for me to see, because I find I learn a lot of new things every day, and that's where I think, oh my God, I didn't know this. I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know how to do that. Difficult to really put myself in a scale, but certainly not 10. I don't think. I think there's a long way to go. I have a lot of things to improve, like everyone else. Good, I won't ask you a question now, you already asked me. Those who have not asked me a question.
Wait. What do you think the greatest mistake you ever done in your life? How do you overcome that? How you convince yourself?
Okay, so I think as a leader, my mistakes have been, at times I have been tolerant more tolerant or too tolerant than I should have been. And I mean by bad performance. So there have been people in the team who have not been performing, and the human side of me says, let's give them a chance, which is good. But then my human side tells me, give them another chance, which is good. But then that another becomes 10, 20. And at times I've realized I should have acted earlier. I should not have been prolonging, and I think that's a sign of the leader. A leader will have to make a decision, and a leader have to make tough decisions, difficult decisions. But as I said, those decisions, it's like if you have a finger, you should remove it before it poisons the rest of your body. That's the only way to survive. And you have seen patients where doctors unfortunately had to cut a limb or a part. Why? Because they want them to survive. So I think that's something which I realized as a leader. I've been too tolerant for long than I should have been. And how I remedy that? I always tell myself that message whenever I'm in that situation again. Whenever I'm seeing that situation again, I always tell myself, Ali, fair enough, give the chance, give the opportunity, but don't leave it on and on for too long. Good. I'm not going to ask you a question, so good. Others have not asked.
Yeah, I have a question. So you have been working in 11 countries, right? So I think we all have different culture, working culture. And what do you think about Malaysia culture? How do you approach leading here in Malaysia? Do you have a different approach?
Definitely, everyone has a different approach.
To be honest, this is only today is my 10th day in Malaysia. I came last time for 1 week and I've come this time for 1 week. So only 10 days. It's very difficult for me to say. But what my observation is, I can tell you, frankly, I think you guys love food. Which is a good thing, which is I'm saying is a good thing. I see a lot of food around office. I see food downstairs in the shopping centers. So I think you guys love food. I think your other thing which I've noticed, which is very Asian culture, social integration between yourselves. I see that quite a lot than I see in Western cultures. Western cultures, direct culture versus indirect culture. So if suppliers, so I meet suppliers from different cultures. So when I go and meet the supplier of Germany, who are not bad or good, just they're different. Their culture is very direct. So I go to them and I talk to them. First question is straight business. Talk about business. But when I go to meet a Middle East supplier, first question is, how are you? How are your kids? How is your cow? How is your goat? You ask all the social questions. But imagine if I'm doing the other way around. If I'm going to Germany and talking to the supplier saying, how is your wife? How is your kids? How is your goat? How is your chicken? They are probably going to say, what are you talking about? None of your business. And if I go to Middle East and I stay talking about business, they say, this guy is not even interested in making a bond, in even becoming a friend and being human. So I think you have to adjust to the culture. That's the key for a leader as well. Too early, so I think the social integration here I see quite a lot, which I expected being from this part of the world. The other thing I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think you guys do give me a feeling of being relaxed and not being too stressful, or at least you don't show that. In Aberdeen culture, what I meant in Aberdeen culture, and they expect it and they accept it, and it's not Scotland, it's not England, it's not UK, it's only Aberdeen, and they say it. They're moaning all the time. So when it's raining, they say, oh, it's raining. When it's sunny, they say it's too strong sun. When it's cold, they say it's very cold. When it's hot, they say it's very hot. So they're moaning all the time, and they accept it. And that's I noticed. The other thing there is somehow it's only Aberdeen. It's very difficult to become social there. So it's very, very difficult. People usually keep to themselves and then become social. Here, I feel that social integration is quite a lot. So enough for 10 days, but I'll tell you when I spend more time in Malaysia.
Lack of durians, that's why.
You tried before?
I tried last time. Yes, please.
I've just read somewhere, it's mentioned something like, the first mistake is an opportunity to learn. How do you, in an organization, what do you think about that?
I totally agree. I think we, as individuals, as organizations, we should be learning all the time. And, first mistake is always a learning opportunity. Depends what type of mistake it is. If you kill someone and say, I was learning, I'm sure police won't agree with you. But jokes aside, you are absolutely right. I think there's always something to learn. And I think that's where the consistency, persistence, and what John was saying earlier comes from. That, you don't accept failure. You learn and then you try again. You don't accept that I have failed, let me give up. A lot of people in the world who became very successful and leaders, if they had given up on first failure, like I think you guys know Steve Jobs failed. How many times he failed, not only in his school, but in his first company. And imagine if Steve Jobs had accepted a failure and not learned and try again, this world probably would be different. In the same way, a lot of other people who failed, but they took it as a learning lesson. So absolutely, I totally agree with you. We should be learning from our mistakes and improving, but continue to try. That's the key word. No question for Jamalia. So others, how many are left? I'm not going to ask you, so.
Can I ask? I think we have taken a personality test, and I think it's divided by a 4-quadrant, right? The ISC. To me, I think it's more of a popular sanguine, which is a peacock, a powerful colic, an eagle, a perfect melancholy, which is an owl, or peaceful, phlegmatic, and a pigeon. Well, which quadrant do you think you are? And do you think, I mean, a true leadership, which quadrant do you think they should be more inclined into?
Yeah. So in those tests, I have come out as INTJ. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. So INTJ is, I is for introvert. So that's a computer. A lot of people think, Ali, we can't believe you're an introvert. We think you're an extrovert. But I think the computer was right. I think I am an introvert. The other part of that is saying I go with reasoning and logic than with feelings. So a lot of people go with feelings. I don't. I usually go on reasons and logic. And there's nothing good or bad. So I'm not saying this type of people is good, this type of people is bad. It's just like Ruslan said, we are all wired differently. It's just a self-awareness. We become aware. So for example, when you have extroverts and introverts sitting in the same room, I think if people are aware, then you know what the introvert does? The introvert hears something and it starts internalizing and trying to understand and trying to absorb, while the extroverts are usually quick, saying, okay, this is what it is, okay, decided, done, let's do it. And the introvert is internally saying, oh my God, she or she's not giving me a chance to even think about it and talk about it. The extrovert is getting frustrated, saying, this guy will never make a decision. He will just keep thinking and keeping quiet and that. But if you understand and acknowledge each other's, the way you're wired, then you will give space to both. The person who's extrovert will say, you know what, Ali, I will leave it with you. Let's think about it. Let's discuss tomorrow. The introvert will realize your thing, saying you want to make a quick decision, saying, okay, you know what, Azmi, I heard your point. Can I get one day to think about it and look at some data? Can we look at something and then come back? A lot of people you will see will need a lot of data to make decision. So I have come out as someone who's introvert, who's more towards reasoning, logic than feeling. What does T stands for? J stands for judgmental, I think. And I said that may be a weakness in me. But again, I said there's nothing good or bad. It's just we are differently wired. But I think the key point in your question is, let's be self-aware. So there are a lot of things in internet which are free to test, and I encourage you to go and do those tests for yourselves and try to understand yourself, because if you are self-aware, that's 50% of the battle done. You are 50% already in the journey to success. So do those, and also I encourage people to share with each other. I did this test, and you know this is how my personality is. Give it to your manager. And we did in supply chain last time I was here, we did a test of thing, and I think it was a very interesting session. What do you guys think? I think we became self-aware, we became aware of each other, and I think then we started accommodating each other. Because we saw then the background, oh my God, okay, now I understand. It is just the way he or she is wired. This is how God made him or made her. And it's not that she or he trying to be naughty or malicious or fighting. It's just the way that we are. I think I encourage you to do those tests yourself and share it with your family and with your colleagues.
Any more question?
Those who have not asked me, trying to.
Okay, one for Amy.
Since my boss is not down. Another question. How to manage a micromanaged leader? And then how, because when you micromanage, you may understated your subordinate capability, or I may say that what is the best approach to manage a micromanaged leader?
Very good question, really good question. And the way, so I've had micromanagers in my life. The way I do it is two things. Overload the person with data and information. Because not joking. Because that person wants information. That's the way that person is wired. That person needs information, that person needs data. There's a lot of hunger in that person for data and information. So load the person with data and information, send him the Excel sheets, send her the Excel sheets, Word documents, PowerPoint, here's the data, here's the data, here's the data, because that person needs the data, and there's nothing wrong in it. Give that data to the person, a lot of data, and there will be a point when that person will come and saying, please stop, don't send me, I don't need to send. No, the reason why, because why people micromanage, so you have to understand their psychology. People micromanage because people think you are not doing your job in detail. They are not sure that this person, Ali, is doing his job in detail. They think Ali is not looking into detail. Let me go and help Ali in a positive way to look into detail. That's the assumption. And there may be at times correct assumption, at times wrong assumption. So when you give them lots of data, what they see is, oh no, I'm wrong. He's actually looking into this. Oh, he has seen this. Oh, he is working on this. So then their appetite gets filled, and then their assumption proves wrong, and they think, okay, this person actually does all that. So I don't need to go to this person. Let me go and ask the other person, because I think that person is not going into detail. So give the person a lot of data, a lot of information, so that they can understand you do go into detail. The second thing I do is engage and communicate a lot with that person. So even if you are just thinking that I'll be wearing yellow clothes tomorrow, go to him and say, you know what, I'm thinking of wearing yellow clothes tomorrow. What do you think? So I'm trying to explain in easy way, saying, you know what do you think? You think we should make these changes? Maybe not now, maybe in 6 months' time. Do you think we should do it like this? So even when you are at the thought stage or at the concept stage, go and communicate. If you do that, then that person will start seeing that, oh, okay, so this is what you are thinking, this is where you are, and time will come when they will leave it to you, saying, I know this person thinks in advance, I know this person goes in the data, I know this person goes into details. That is how I have done, and I have seen success of it. You have to understand the other person's mindset. You see the behavior, but you don't understand why he or she is doing it, and that is the key. The moment you understand why he or she is doing that, then you can, so rather than focusing on the behavior, which is micromanaging, focus on why he or she does that. Why? Maybe he does that because his boss is very micromanager, and his boss has appetite for a lot of information. So again, the key is give them data, give them information. I would say give them more information, and then there are other type of people who really don't like information and data and Excel sheets. For them, more is always less, or less is always more type of a thing. So I think that is what I have done, and I have been successful. Good question.
So it's about trust. Once you get the trust?
Yeah, trust definitely, but also, trust, but also assumptions, way of thinking, style, natural, and also type of personality. So those people who are more feeling type, we were talking about profiles, those who are feeling type, they are not usually micromanagers because they go on the feeling. Those who are more reasoning and logic type, they are micromanagers because there is a lot of appetite for information, data. And once you give them, overload them with information, send them your working files. The files you're working on, send them that, saying, you know what, Ali, I'm working on this. I just want you to make aware. If you want me to make any changes, please let me know. And I think your life will become very easy.
What about these leaders who are unable to make decisions, even though we have loaded them with loads and loads of information?
Yeah, so, that's very true. And honestly, I've been in those situations, and that has frustrated me a lot. To be very honest, I have still not found a solution for those.
He's going to write a book about it.
No, that's true. I have not, because I've been in situations where I've really hit my head on the wall saying, what makes this person do something? And communicate, but then even that has not helped. So once I find a solution, I'll call you.
Mr. Ali, one question. I believe throughout your career you have motivated your team many times, but have you ever got motivated by your own subordinates, and can you give me some situation?
Yeah, definitely. When they come up with new ideas and ideas that I have not thought before, I think that really energizes me when they've taken ownership, responsibilities, and bring ideas for continuous improvement. That always motivates me when people come to me saying, Ali, what about this idea? And I encourage them saying, come up with 10 ideas. Even if we implement one of them, that is a huge success. That will make a big difference.
What would be your, if you have an advice, what would you give to the Malaysia EQ leadership team for them to take this company to be the next Schlumberger of oil and gas operators, you know, or the Google of oil and gas operators? What would it be?
That's a difficult question because I honestly.
He doesn't want to offend people.
No, no, it's not offending. It's just lack of my knowledge. I have not interacted. I've only attended 2 leadership team meetings in KL. I have interacted with John and some people, but honestly, I don't think I'm in a position to say anything at the moment. Once I spend more time, I will definitely be in a position to say, but today I'll be lying whatever I say. But I can give you a nice flowery worded answer, but that won't be coming from my heart. So it's too early for me.
I'm sure you have made a lot of observations.
Sorry?
I'm sure you have made a lot of observations.
About the leadership team?
Yeah.
No, because I've only attended 2 meetings, the leadership, so I don't know how the leadership team works, what are the dynamics of the leadership team. It's only 2 meetings is very short. Yeah, so to really decide, so bit early. But have you given feedback to the leadership team? No, because and I'm sure they will appreciate that. Seriously, because people, leaders, you probably don't recognize, but a lot of people appreciate, and that can be anonymous. So you have an opportunity. There is a cultural survey that has started, which is going to remain open till 5th of January. So, and that is exactly that. So that is basically leadership in Malaysia requesting you to give feedback. And they will see the results by country. So by company, by department, but by country. And I promise you, it is anonymous. No one will ever find out who said what. No one will ever find out. I can tell you that. Because this is being done by a third-party supplier outside of Inquest, who is neutral. And it is done through a web page, which is neutral. Computers won't lie. So I can promise you the survey is anonymous. I can promise you people will take it seriously. And I can promise you even Amjad at his level will be looking at this data very seriously. What I can tell you in the last survey, I don't know if you guys saw the results or people communicated or not, Malaysia or KL came as the happiest place among Inquest locations. So the most happiest place was Malaysia. Second happiest place was Dubai, third happiest place was London, and the fourth not happy place was
the last one.
The last survey that we did, I think 2 years ago. So your opportunity is give feedback, constructive feedback, and honestly I can tell you management wants to know that feedback. You agree with me, Melly?
Yes, totally agree, because to me feedback is a gift. It's a present that you give to us.
As long as a positive feedback.
No, not necessarily.
Actually, the negative feedback is actually more of a present because then it helps us improve.
I totally agree. I think it's a help, it's a favor. You are right.
I think the downliners also, we want to give a lot of feedback, but I mean, sometimes our perception, I mean, it's not just here, it's everywhere. Some managers, they say that, like, tell me the truth, but in reality, they can't handle the truth. When they hear things that they want to hear, and that upsets them, or they just call you, hey, you're not a team player, So that's why people, sometimes they being a bit reserved. Especially here in this region where Asian, like I say, our interaction is a lot more close, instead, unlike the European. So we tend to be a lot more reserved in our opinion.
No, I agree. But I tell you one thing. So yes, people will hear it, but they will not handle it properly. But I tell you, if you give one person give a feedback to the leader, he will act like saying, not everyone, but some people take it positively, really positively. Some people don't, and those, I tell you, even them, if 5 different people tell them the same thing, then seriously, even from the outside, they don't appear to take it positively. I tell you, psychologically, they do take the impact. They take it seriously because they say, you know what, to themselves, 5 people are saying the same thing. There must be something. Yes, they might not be admitting it to you outside, but internally, they will be seriously thinking that no, this is coming now from 5 people. Now let me think about it. So I think the key is, obviously you have to be respectful and positive and constructive, but I would definitely encourage you, even if it's not a positive feedback, I definitely can say management will appreciate you telling that in a respectful way, one-to-one way, anonymous way, whatever way. But I think it's important you do convey. Don't assume that that person will not change. I think definitely give them feedback. Do you agree with me, Mary?
Totally agree. But do it with a open heart, with a good heart,
Yeah.
with a motivation to let that person improve. Don't be malicious with it.
No, absolutely. Positive, constructive, and respectful.
Yes.
Totally.
Nothing personal.
Well, I don't know, depends on what you are saying. Like for example, if you talk about leadership style, is that personal? I don't know, probably not.
Okay, one last question.
I have one last question.
Yes, please.
How can people love to use like a channel to voice out their opinion? In Quest we have, I can't remember what's the unit that handle that, all those their opinions, rather than encourage them to be open and share their opinions.
I didn't understand your
Okay,
question.
because that I believe that people love to send their message
Like a speak up channel.
a
speak
speak
up
up
channel,
channel,
yes.
rather than be open. How can we encourage the culture that people be open and share their opinion?
I think, for example, sessions like these, where I really like it. You guys do a lot of these sessions where people get an opportunity to talk openly. I think people are talking openly today. I think the type of questions I have heard, I think people are talking openly. Yes, you have to be respectful and all that. So I think communication is the key. You give people confidence through communicating, saying, don't worry, we want to hear from you, please talk. And I really like it that I see a lot of leaders, from people from your leadership team attending these sessions, which to me, and you should interpret in the same way, looks like a commitment from your leadership team. I've seen John attending these sessions regularly, and people from his leadership team. I think that's how you show commitment and you tell people what you're saying is important. I think this cultural survey again is another way to tell people we are encouraging you to openly talk. In Aberdeen, we have the same thing. So in Aberdeen, when we do town hall, when we do those things, people don't ask questions. I don't know why. We talk in management team saying why people are not asking questions, why people are not talking questions. So I think how you encourage people, by communicating with them, by reassuring them, by telling them, guys, you're not going to be penalized, victimized for. Yeah, you won't be that, and I think it's both ways. Honestly, it's one, the management team has to do that, and I think we have to do that as a group totally. But I think employees have to play their part. I think employees have to really also say, let me ask the question respectfully and politely, objectively, positively. But let me ask question. Let me not keep it inside. And one way of doing it, a lot of people feel shy to ask in front of 20 people, which is understandable. The option to that is after the meeting, go direct to the individual in the office saying, Ali, I hope you don't mind me asking this question, but what do you think about this? Word it as politely, respectfully. I don't think people will discourage you from asking. I personally, and I may be wrong, I honestly ask, a lot of times I go to Amjad and I say, Amjad, this is I think wrong, this is I think not the way it should be done. And I can honestly tell you, honestly, seriously, I'm telling you this from my heart, not once I have felt he has taken an offense or he has, otherwise I won't be here for 7.5 years. So I think it's, as long as people see that as Melly said, they're objective. As long as people see you're being positive, you're asking it constructively, I think people will encourage. So I think it's both ways. I think it's management who needs to keep encouraging, and we try to do it both through anonymous surveys and through sessions. But I think at the same time, employees need to encourage each other and engage and communicate. That's the only key. That's the only way to go forward.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ali, as well.
Thank you.
For 2 hours.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Can I have your lunch at the country?